And Lemmy's like, you going home? I'm like, I guess. He's like, you don't want to go to a strip club with me? I'm like, yeah, I'll go. He's like, yeah, let's go. Unless you want to go home. I go, no, let's go. Next thing I know, I'm hanging out in a strip club with Lemmy. It was beautiful.
Live from the Willie Nelson and Friends Museum Showcase in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Music is Funny. Musicians talking to comedians about music and comedy. With your hosts, Raylan Nelson and Jonathan Bright.
I'm still smoking, I'm so high, I keep toking, I'm drunk, but I'm still drinking too.
Hey, I'm Raylan Nelson.
I'm Jonathan Bright from the Raylan Nelson Band.
Welcome back to Music is Funny. This is part 2 of this episode.
Yep, part 1 is unreleased and will remain unreleased because this one did not actually make it record.
Yeah, I didn't press record. So we talked for an hour last week, but luckily he's a really nice guy and did it again.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have done it again, but he was very cool about that.
Well, you're not a really nice guy.
That's very true.
Hey, he's a huge music fan. Started off as a DJ and then worked his way into stand-up comedy.
Yeah, transitioned into stand-up. He was a regular on Howard Stern, that metal show on VH1.
And Crank Yankers on Comedy Central.
Yeah, story is crazy how he got to, we'll leave it to the podcast, but how he got from point A to where he is now. It's insane.
Yeah, he's known for his uncompromising and edgy comedy, a Jim Florentine.
We'll address this in the open, I'm sure, but we can't, help. In case anybody skips past that, Stony McStoner over here forgot to push record last time.
I was just nervous to talk to you, I think, and I got really flustered when you came on and opened the wrong meeting. It's supposed to automatically record, and I don't know. But
Why were you nervous to talk to me?
Well, because you're one of my favorite comedians, and I was just nervous to talk to you.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
So
yeah, we won't do the same exact thing we did last time.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't introduce ourselves to you, but annoying or funny if tomorrow I email you and say it didn't record again, and we have to do it again. Would that be annoying or funny to you?
That would. I think a fuck off is coming after that.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know. Can we recreate this a third time? I don't know.
Right. Have you ever lost one? I know you podcasted a bunch.
Yeah, definitely. The battery's gone out. I've gotten the band backstage. I had a little portable recorder. I'm interviewing him. I don't even want to look at it. And then all of a sudden there's like, oh man, the batteries are just completely dead. I lost everything. So it happens. I get it.
Yeah. Well, I got a chance to give her a little bit of shit, so that was good.
Yeah, I'm still getting shit for it. And I gave myself shit for it for 24 hours. I couldn't even email it. He had to press send on the email to your manager.
But anyway, let's get back into it. So, like we talked about last time, you grew up in a big family from Jersey, right?
Yeah.
And how early was it as a kid? Everybody knows you're into metal. How early as a kid was it metal right off the bat, or were you in your teenage years? Did you catch it, 9 or 10 years old? How early did you get into it?
Probably about 12.
Yeah.
I got into it. I had 2 older brothers that were about 4 and 5 years older than me. So they started driving around 16, 17. And, I'd just be in the backseat driving, being in a car with them, and they'd be cranking the, Ted Nugent, AC/DC, Ozzy, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, that stuff. So I had no choice but to get into it. And it was great. Just sitting back there was just cool. Like, oh man, I'm driving around with my brothers, I'm away from the parents and stuff. So.
And you ended up, we didn't talk about this last time, but you did some time in Florida. How did you get from Jersey to Florida and back to Jersey?
Well, I did some time doesn't mean I was in jail.
Well, I guess that came out wrong.
Yeah. After sophomore year in high school, my dad, the whole family moved to Florida. So I finished up my high school years down there, and then I moved down a couple years later. So I was spending about 4 years down in Florida, Fort Lauderdale area.
Was that weird coming from Jersey, getting to Florida?
Yeah.
Florida's a wacky place.
Yeah, it was, especially, and you get pulled out of high school after sophomore year. I grew up with all these friends in the same neighborhood, and then I go down to Florida, and I'm like in this private Catholic school. I don't know anyone. And they didn't take it light. I had long hair, and I had, Black Sabbath written on all of my books. And like, who was this weirdo? They were all like rich kids, that drove around in daddy's Mercedes. I had like a beat up Volkswagen with Black Sabbath bumper stickers on it. So I was definitely an outcast.
Yeah. What took the family? I mean, I guess your dad's work took you there. Why'd you end up in?
Yeah, my dad wanted to open a catering business. He always dreamed it, so he left his job in New York and bought like those lunch trucks that go to construction sites. Bought a whole route, and that's what he always wanted to do. So he just decided, let's go do it, and it didn't work out ultimately. But I hated it down there, because you're in the middle of high school, and I had friends since I was in first grade, and all of a sudden I'm pulled out of that. So it was a tough time.
Did you get
But
back?
that's when I really got into music, because I would just go to the record store on Friday night, pick up a bunch of albums and then just go home and listen to it because I had nothing else going on. I wasn't going to parties. So.
It was vinyl records?
Yeah, vinyl records, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see any shows while you were in Florida, or did you start getting into that more when you got back to Jersey?
Oh, yeah, the constant. Van Halen a bunch of times, Black Sabbath. Yeah, go to shows all the time. There was a big rock scene down in South Florida. All the bands would come down there. So I saw a ton of shows. And then when I moved back to New Jersey, I lived in a town called Old Bridge. That's where I grew up, Old Bridge, New Jersey. And that's where Megaforce Records and Johnny Z was, the guy who, signed Metallica and Anthrax and all those bands, started Megaforce Records.
Right.
I lived in the same neighborhood as him. And I became friends with him. He had a flea market. At the flea market, he had a little stand there, where a record store stand. So me and my friends, we get paid on Friday night. Once again, we'd hang out at the store, and he just put on these albums. He's like, oh, listen to this band, all these bands from like England, Iron Maiden, and all these bands. And then he's like, this cassette, he had Metallica, No Life Till Leather on cassette. It was like 4 songs. He's like, listen to this, man. I remember putting it in. I'm like, wow, this is out there. He's like, I'm going to manage this band one day. They're from San Francisco. I'm going to bring them to the East Coast. And doing a bunch of shows, and he wanted putting out the first 2 Metallica records too. So I saw Metallica playing in like a roller skating rink, to hanging out in the bars. I took them to the mall one time in my car and stuff. So I was there from the beginning with those guys.
This is still when Dave was in the band, right?
Yeah, Dave was still in the band. Yeah.
So you saw a bunch of those like early, probably thrash bands just living where you were. Because we didn't get a whole lot.
Metallica, Anthrax, all those thrash bands, and he would bring all these bands over, except like these these 80s bands and stuff. For Raven, a band from out of England, Anvil out of Canada. So we're as kids, and they were just finding little bars or like a roller skating rink, and they were having their shows there. We're like, oh, this is great, and we just so it was a great time. I mean, we didn't have any girlfriends because that's all we were into was heavy metal, but it didn't matter. We're all just like, we're going to shows every weekend.
And the bands you just listed don't bring out the female crowd.
No, they weren't bringing it out at all. And then then when we got into Motorhead, forget it. We had no girlfriends.
There's like 5 girls in the world that like metal.
Yeah, I know. And you go to a show, you'd see one girl like, what is that girl doing here? Oh man, a boyfriend must have dragged her here.
Yeah, what's wrong with her? So growing up like that, you had to probably at one point think about wanting to be in a band.
Yeah. Yeah. All my friends were playing in bands, playing guitar and stuff like that. I just, I tried guitar, but I was a lefty, and no one could teach me I could play righty. I can't play lefty. If you could play righty, and I couldn't play righty. And then I tried singing. It just didn't work out. I just don't have an ear for music. I love it, but I just didn't. I went for singing lessons one time, and a lady at the end of the lessons goes, listen, I'll be honest with you. You don't have an ear for music. You'll develop it at some point, but I pretty much think you might be wasting your time. At least she was honest with me.
Yeah, she didn't take your money.
She didn't take my money for 5 straight years. So I'm like, all right, I wasn't bummed out about it. I had a feeling I was terrible.
What was she making you sing? Was she making you sing classical stuff? Because when I took vocal lessons, they would make you sing all this stupid, not stupid, I don't mean that like that, but stuff I didn't want to sing, Like if you were...
I can't remember what it was, but I knew I sounded terrible. And I tried to sing for one of my friends' bands, and it was just like, dude, you're better off as a roadie. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I was thinking about like the whole scene of going to shows back then. I guess it was the same up there, but back in those days, number one, getting tickets for the show, you couldn't just go online. You couldn't even really call in, because back then the only people that had credit cards were people that actually had money enough to pay off credit cards, before they started handing them out to everybody. So there were always like record stores. You had to go stand in line to get a ticket, and maybe there were certain record stores or a grocery store that had a ticket master or whatever that had the shorter lines. You had to go hustle to just try to get to the show,
Yeah, and then, or you go outside the venue and hope to buy one outside off a scalper. We did that a lot too. There was shows in New York City. We'd take the bus in from New Jersey. Like, I think we saw AC/DC and Def Leppard when we were like 12 years old. Our parents let us take the bus in, and we wound up scalping tickets out front and getting in to see that show. So that's what we do that too. And then I was also a heavy metal DJ. I was DJing in the rock clubs down in Florida, and then when I moved back up to New Jersey, so I was around it all the time.
What was your DJ name?
It's embarrassing.
No, we gotta have it.
I had to have one. Like, everybody had to have one. You just couldn't be. So it was Jam and Jim.
Jim. Alliteration.
I'm not proud of it, but like, that's what you needed. You needed that.
Yeah, for sure. And did you guys like tailgate before concerts? I remember the parking lots before those metal shows were fantastic. Everybody's cranking Judas Priest and getting hammered and.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still to this day, I still love tailgating. That's my favorite thing to do.
Where did metal music come from, you think? When was someone just like, let's scream really loud lyrics that nobody can really understand? Where did this come from?
I don't know. Originally, there's theories. Cream started it, then MC5, and then Deep Purple, kinda, but then Black Sabbath was the band.
Yeah, I would go with Black. I would go with Sabbath.
Yeah. Okay.
But then, then all of a sudden Metallica comes around, and the thrash scene, it just takes it to a whole other level. Just that fast music, super fast. Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer. Those bands, they came around, around 83, 84, 82, somewhere around there when they, so it got harder. But then also a lot of the hair bands came around that time too. So that's when that started breaking. So you had the ugly bands like Motorhead and Slayer that wouldn't put on makeup and do their hair and all that stuff. And then you had the Motley Crues and the Poisons and all that stuff that blew up because of the videos. If you look good in the 80s, you got on TV. If the band was good looking, you could, if you look back, all the ugly bands just they didn't go that far. The pretty boys went way further.
You just needed to be good looking and have one power ballad, and boom, you're on.
Yeah. It was always like, that was the second or third single was the power ballad. They never started off with the power ballad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Yeah, it was the same song everyone put out. It was the same formula, and that's why eventually it burned out.
At least they brought chicks into the scene, though.
Oh, there was so many girls would go to those shows, which was great. So you go see Poison and Rat, and it'd be like 40% females, which was awesome. Finally, like, God, thank God.
Right. So, from at what point did you consider comedy? Or
wait, I want to ask you: did you ever consider writing music, writing a song? Because you write jokes. I don't know. I know it's not the same thing, but
no, I never did for some reason. It's funny. My kid, who's 10, at like 5 years old, I started taking the music lessons, and he was just coming up with lyrics, just riffing and stuff like that. He's really good. He'll still write lyrics. I got a lyric for this song or whatever. So I don't know what he's going to do with it now, but he's really good at it. I'm like, man, he didn't get it from me. That's for sure. But no, I never really did. I don't know why. I just didn't. I don't know. It didn't really. I never really thought about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're DJing.
If I was in a band, if I was part of the band, I'd probably want to contribute to the lyrics. But
yeah,
mine would have been very childish, especially back then. You know what I mean? It would have been. They would have just grabbed girls and trying to get laid and stuff like that and drinking.
Those are the best songs, though. And
you're right.
And also, when we're writing songs, the stupidest shit comes out first. That we're just joking with whatever rhymes. Anyway, what was your question about comedy?
Oh no, I was just saying that you, after being immersed in all this music stuff, at some point, clearly you decided you might want to take a look at comedy. Like, what triggered that into your brain? Like, maybe music isn't the way, but that looks like a lot of fun too.
Well, I knew I didn't want to work a day job. So I was like, I got to find something where I could be on stage, because I was always fascinated by it. And I was a big comedy fan too, growing up. I was into stand up and stuff. And
who were you into as a child?
Rodney Dangerfield was a big influence. I loved him with his quick one-liners. Richard Pryor was another one, George Carlin. And I'd watch the stand-up on TV and stuff, but then when Dice and Sam Kinison came out, they were like rock stars. I'm like, that really appealed to me. when they were selling out arenas. I'm like, wow, this is cool. And that's when I decided that's what I want to do. And once I went up on stage once, I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I didn't do great. I remember getting one laugh off some guy said something in the crowd. I said something back and the crowd laughed. And I was like, man, that feeling I got, I was like, oh, man, that's unbelievable. That rush you get from those laughs. So that was like, this is what I want to do. And that's when I started focusing on stand-up.
So how does that work? Like you start a band and you play a bunch of gigs around town. You maybe get 45 minutes, an hour outside of town. You do that for a couple of years. In stand-up, I know you guys do open mics, but did you have a crew that you got together with and you guys would hit them almost band-like where you would just roll around together? Surely there was, like, the crew that you came up with, it's one of my favorite classes because there's a lot of you guys that really don't give a fuck, Yeah,
because you're from New Jersey, you don't. You're a ball buster and you don't give a shit. You're like, that's too bad. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, me and Jim Norton pretty much started at the same time. So, once we became friends right at the beginning, we started going to New York City and trying to get in those clubs. That's where you really were going to make it, as a comic.
Yeah. What's a weekend like that? Like a Friday, Saturday night? Do you hit multiple places and meet up afterwards after it's all done and hang out with comics? How does that work?
Well, in the beginning, we weren't ready. Like we weren't, you got to be doing it like minimum of 3 or 4 years before you should even try to go in New York City or Los Angeles, because the competition is so good. And if they see you once and you bomb, it's almost like a band. If the record label comes out and you guys aren't ready, they don't want to see you ever again, or it's going to take a long time.
So what's the 3 years like before you get to that point? What are you doing?
We would just do any gig everywhere and anywhere. There's a couple of headliners, Rich Voss and another guy, Bob Levy, that took a liking to me and Jim Norton, and we'd open for them. They took us on the road. They're already headlining, those guys. So they got us in all these different places. So we were working like 5-6 nights a week right off the bat. Just getting better in these little shitty bars, nightclubs, whatever, strip clubs, wherever we could get on stage. We didn't care. Like, we're just working. And that's how we got better.
Now, so back up just a little bit. When you first start, do you just walk into a comedy club and say, hey, I want to do New Faces Night? Is that how you do it? How does a new stand-up?
Usually, you go in like an open mic night and you sign up. I remember, I was always super shy. Like, I didn't want to talk on the microphone, even though I was a DJ in a rock club. You don't talk that much and you're hidden in the booth. So when I started doing stand-up, it took me about a year once I realized I wanted to do it before I actually went on stage. So I was writing a lot of material. I was just afraid to do public speaking, perform in front of people. But I remember I went on vacation to Florida with my girlfriend at the time, and I brought my notebook. I go, maybe I'll write some jokes while I'm down here. We had a place on the beach and all that. And where I come from the airport, I saw open mic night on Tuesday, comedy night. And I was like, I looked at it, I go, man, that's the perfect place because nobody knows me.
Yeah.
But my bomb, I didn't want to perform in front of my friends or family. Mm-hmm. I was like, no one's going to know me here. So I basically ruined the whole vacation, just working on that 5-minute set. I signed up and they go, okay, you got 5 minutes. And the whole vacation, I was walking up and down the beach, just like memorizing my lines. Oh. So out of my mind. My girlfriend was furious at the time.
I bet.
And that was the first time I went on. And the guy that was there, the guy that was the host, he actually lived in New Jersey near me. He goes, I run an open mic on every Tuesday night, in the next town over from where you live, come on down. So right. I just would go there every Tuesday night. Did that for, probably 2 straight years.
I can imagine. So, sorry, Raylan is double checking the recording there just to make sure.
Yeah, I know. I thought maybe I had something on my face. He was trying to wipe it off.
I wanted to see you up close.
So you're doing that. I can imagine you and Norton driving around, Jersey and stuff together at that age, just, bombing and killing at the same time. I can't imagine when one of you would have bombed and one of you killed, the drive home or the driving around together. It must have been kind of like being in a band with him, probably Don Jamieson. I know you guys are buddies. Everybody you started up with, I'm sure those are lifelong, those are...
Giving each other shit? Was there lots of giving each other shit?
Well, we bonded over Black Sabbath. Norton was a huge Black Sabbath fan, and we bonded over Andrew Dice Clay. So as soon as, I knew that he liked those two things and he knew I liked them, that's how we bonded. And we both grew up a couple towns over. He's younger than me. I didn't know him until I started doing comedy. And that's what we bonded over. We were both just, going out there trying to make it, just, whatever gigs we could do. And, we loved it though. We're like, we're getting paid to tell jokes. Like we get like $25 a night or 50. And we're like, this is amazing. We're playing in front of crowds and we're meeting girls after the show. We're getting phone numbers. I'm like, this is awesome.
That's like being in a band.
Yeah. It's not as much, it's not nearly the amount of women. Women always say they're like a guy that's funny, and then, you stand there after the show and they just walk right by you. Yeah, thanks. We just made you laugh for 5 minutes. What else do you want?
Right.
But they're also, going to a comedy club is more of a couples thing. It's not so much, for some reason, a guy in a band holding an instrument. I always said, like, the guy in a cover band playing at the little corner bar down the street, the little tavern, could still have sex with a model from just playing at that corner bar. A comedian can play in front of 3,000 people and they go, hey, he was funny, but yeah, he's, that's about it.
Right. So as you're working up, I know you said Dice was a big influence. Was that, I know you eventually got, what was your first break? Was it getting on Stern? Was it doing stuff with Dice? Like, how did you move from that 3-year period you're talking about? I guess you made it into New York eventually. How did it go from there once you hit the city?
Yeah, I made it in New York and I became friends with this one guy that was around. And he was on MTV, the Comedy Hour. MTV used to have the comedy, whatever it was called, I forget, back in the day. So we were at a Christmas party at one of the comedy clubs. He goes, hey, I'm going to introduce you the talent booker. He works for MTV. He books the comedians. I was doing comedy like 3 years or so. I was like, oh, that'd be great. And I never forget, he went over to him and it was Don Jameson, because Don worked at MTV before he did stand-up. So he was the talent booker for the stand-up show. And he goes, hey, Don, I think you're going to like this guy. He likes heavy metal. He's from New Jersey and he likes strippers. He's like, really? And we sat there and had beers for like 2 hours.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, I'm looking for new comics to come on the show. He goes, I want to come see you like Tuesday night at one of the clubs in New York City. He set it up and he came out and he's like, dude, I loved it. It was great. And then like in 3 weeks later, I was on an MTV show doing stand-up. So that was my first big break.
Yeah. And how long did you have to do that for? Was it a 5-minute set? Was it a 10-minute set?
Yeah, it was probably like a 10-minute set. Yeah.
How old were you at that time?
26, 27.
Yeah. Still pretty
somewhere
young.
around there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Don, was like, we became friends and, he was a big executive at MTV. For me, it was like, holy, MTV, even in the 90s, was still big.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man. And then he's like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing stand-up. I want to come to one of your gigs just to see what it's like. And meanwhile, I'm doing these like shitty gigs. The one gig was down in Philadelphia. There was a strip club connected to the comedy show, to where they had the comedy at him. He's like, I want to come. I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I go, look, it's not a good gig. He goes, I don't care. I'm like, I didn't want him to know that I was playing these shitty places, even after I did the comedy thing, you know what I mean? Because I would just play anywhere. I didn't care. He goes, no, I don't care about that. And he came down. He's like, man, dude, I'm getting up on stage too. But I was nervous bringing this MTV executive, to some little comedy club connected to a strip club. And we'd hang out in between, the shows and hang out in the strip club.
That's funny. I had no idea he was an MTV executive.
Yeah. He was a talented, and then he worked on the Tom Green show later before he started doing stand-up full time. But yeah, he worked there back in the day.
So we got to get to the crank call, the Crank Yankers thing. Explain how that even came about.
Well, so I'm living with Jim Norton at the time, and I got nothing going on during the day. So I just wait for telemarketers to call, and I would just pick the phone up and see how long I could stay on the phone with them. I try to stay on some side. They stay on for an hour, just, messing with them. And I remember Don said, he goes, you should tape that. He goes, well, first he goes, put it on 3-way. I want to listen to this. It sounds funny. And he listened to one. He goes, dude, you're in a gold mine here. You got to start taping these. This is really funny. I didn't even know. I wasn't even a big prank call fan. I mean, I did prank calls when I was a kid. I didn't know. I thought it was funny to me. He's like, no, and I just bought a tape recorder. I hooked it up to the phone and I made a CD. I produced it myself. I went to a local CD shop, got a bunch of them made, and then we dropped it off at the Howard Stern show. And he goes, all right, if it's Gary, the producer there, we knew him. He's like, all right, if it's funny, he'll play it. I'm like, yeah, he ain't going to play it. Whatever. There was like 1,000 CDs on his desk. I'm like, yeah, right. And the next morning he started playing at Howard Stern. He's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Who is this guy? I was sleeping. I'm like, there's no way he's going to play it. So I wasn't going to wake up early to see if he was. Yeah. I wake up at like 11 o'clock. There's like 40 messages on my machine. Howard Stern's talking about you. He's playing your comedy. I'm like, wow. And then like a month later, I was on the show, sitting in on the show.
Holy shit. And didn't I read that, weren't you like number 2 on the iTunes charts behind like the Backstreet Boys or something? One of those just from that?
No, that was on Amazon. Yeah. So before I was on, nobody knew who I was. I was just I made it up to just sell at some shows, get my name out there. So I remember my ranking before I went on Howard Stern was 282,487 on Amazon. My overall rank. Within one day, I was at number 2, right behind the Backstreet Boys in their heyday. And I would have went to number 1, but my website crashed. I didn't have enough bandwidth, and everyone was going to my website to listen to the tracks. So I put the tracks up there, and it just crashed, and my website was down. So I probably would have went to number 1.
That's at that point. It's a trip how like the reach something like Howard Stern has. Now to compare it, I've always been curious. Going on like the Tonight Show or Letterman or things like that. It sounds like a big deal and you can put it in your press kit and everything, but I've always been curious as to how much it's like a comedian or maybe bands, but a comedian, does that 5 minutes really sell you tickets more so than maybe just doing the local radio shows in the towns you're doing? I know it's good exposure for the masses, but did they really translate into tickets like I'm sure Howard Stern did?
No, I mean, Johnny Carson back in the day, I wasn't doing comedy then, but that was the thing. If you got on Johnny Carson and he told you to come over and sit on the couch, you were a star the next day. It worked back then, but then it didn't work after that. After he was pretty much gone and he was off the Tonight Show, morning radio. If there was a big guy in that town, there was always a Howard Stern in every market pretty much. If you got on that show and promoted your show, you would sell it out basically, or sell a lot of tickets. But Howard Stern at that point probably had like 20 million listeners in all these different markets. Mm-hmm. So, and he took a liking to me, and I liked this show because it had a lot of edge, and the people who liked it, it was perfect for my humor. The people that liked that show. So once I got on and he started plugging my gigs, I was selling out everywhere at these clubs. It was insane. It was crazy.
Well, it's almost like I think about it because I'm sure there's a thought with young comics that, to get on TV, that's a big deal. So maybe you listen to people and you kind of, soften the rough edges just to get on TV and think that that's going to give you exposure, but you're really just giving a 5-minute watered down version. It's kind of like if a major label signs a young punk band and then they polish them to pieces and they give them a bunch of exposure. You're really just exposing something that's not even really you. So I'm not, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it seems like it almost doesn't make sense to even try to work to get on TV, because in reality, if you want to be a stand-up, like you said, radio, and there's other avenues like that, then I guess if you want to be a comedian and get a sitcom, it's great. But if you want to be a stand-up, it seems like a waste of time to try and mold yourself to get on TV.
Yeah, they really take apart your set. I remember doing a stand-up set on one of those late night shows, and the host plugged it. He goes, Jim will be at the Funny Bone in St. Louis this weekend. Go see him. I did 6 shows, and every show I said, hey, who saw me on the the late night show? I won't mention his name. It doesn't matter. And 3 people over the course of 6 shows saw me on that.
Wow.
3. So I knew it didn't make a difference, but you go on Howard Stern at that point, and that was the Johnny Carson for me. He was my Johnny Carson.
Right.
I like that humor, the edgy, down and dirty, raw kind of stuff, instead of the the David Letterman type comics. I never wrote to get on David Letterman to get on TV. I didn't want. That wasn't my goal. I just wrote what I thought was funny, and a lot of it wouldn't work in late night. So.
Yeah. When was the first time you felt famous?
I don't know. I've never really felt famous, but it just gets weird when you go out and people would recognize you.
Yeah,
because they never did before.
Do you remember that first time where you're like, What? It's okay. If
You know, the Crank Yankers thing got really big, but I was doing voices. I was doing two different voices, so no one knew what I looked like.
Yeah.
So you could walk around, and I remember, being in a movie theater one time when the thing was in its heyday, and these kids in front of me were doing the character I did. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just standing there. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go tell them, hey, that's me, and they're like, yeah, right. Who are you, you weirdo?
Well, speaking of kids doing your voice, when Eminem was doing it on the MTV Awards before you were even aware, I think that he knew about you. And apparently he was doing special ed and people thought it was some kind of weird code. Nobody had any idea what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he took a liking to Crank Yankers on the air. We did one season, 6 episodes, and we didn't know if it was going to get picked up. It didn't get great ratings the first season, and then we got caught wind that Eminem was a fan of the show. We're like, well, that's cool, And then I remember tuning in the movie awards that year when 8 Mile came out. I guess it must have been, and he won an award. And he just did an impression of Special Ed, the character I did. And I'm watching it at home, like, oh my God! And the crowd had no idea. Nobody did because the show wasn't that popular. And then a couple of days later, we got a call like Eminem wants to be on the show and he wants to do phone calls with you. He likes your characters. And in like 3 days, I was in Detroit at Eminem's studio doing phone calls with him. And that pretty much got the show rolling again. Okay, Eminem's going to be on the show. We're definitely getting picked up.
That
we did a season 2 and a season 3 and all that other stuff.
Had to be mind bending for someone of that stature at that time. Biggest celebrity or biggest music guy in the world, basically.
Easily at that time. Yeah, he was, and it was amazing.
So how long was it from when you put the first CD out until that? How many years had passed?
Maybe like a year and a half. That was it.
It's crazy.
Because, Kimmel and Carolla heard me on the Howard Stern show. It was their idea for Crank Yankers. And they heard my calls on there. They were fans of Howard Stern listening in LA. And when they were looking for guys to do prank calls, they got in touch with the producer. Like, who is that guy? We want him on our show. And they tracked me down. So I was pretty much the only unknown to be on the show at that time. So within a year and a half, I'm doing calls with Eminem, too, which was insane. I guess he was always a big prank phone call fan. Yeah. He put him on his earlier albums and stuff. And I just remember when I went to go meet him, I was all nervous. I'm like, oh man, I see him walk in the studio. He's behind a glass, by the board, and I'm in the other, and I'm looking. I'm like, all right, don't be nervous. Whatever. He's just a person. I remember him walking up to me. He's like, I can't believe I'm in the room with Special Ed. Like that's the first thing he said. I go, I can't believe I'm in the room with you. And then we just started talking about my prank calls. He knew every one of them. He's like, how did this happen? How did that happen? When this guy said this, I'm like, this guy's a maniac. How does he know all this stuff? But he was great. He was really cool to work with. He was fun.
When you saw him do the impression of your character at first, were you like, this? Well, of course you're like, this is cool. He's doing my character. But were you like, he's not doing a good job? Or were you like, that's pretty good?
No, he did it great. He was really good at it. Yeah. Okay. He definitely had it down. And then we wound up doing the MTV Music Awards. I don't know, maybe 2004, 2005, where he came out and Special Ed was with him and he winds up beating him up at the end. And I was right under the podium as he's up there, doing it. I was doing the voice as the puppeteer guy was there. So we did that together too, which is cool.
So tell the story of like you said, you were a big Dice fan, big influence on you. And I know, what you and Norton were working, or maybe you were just in town, but the first time you ran into him and actually met him.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was our first day ever in Los Angeles because we got booked, me and Jim. This is the late 90s on the Louis Anderson Comedy Showcase, it was called. It was on NBC on like Friday nights. Louis was the host. And we got picked and we flew to California, our first day ever there. And we're hanging somewhere or whatever. And Rich Voss that was out there with us too, called us. He said, hey, Dice is hanging out at the Comedy Store. We're like, oh my God. So we rushed up there to go meet him. And, Voss was talking to him and I went up to him like, hey, Dice, can I get a picture? He's like, no. He's always standoffish like that. That's just his thing. I go, what do you mean? He goes, no, I'm not taking a picture. I go, I can't get one picture. He goes, nobody tells me what to do. No. And me and Norton are just standing like, oh man. And he's talking to Voss and I go, I'm going to give it one more shot. What do I got to lose? I'd probably never meet the guy again. I go, come on, Dice, we're comics from New York City. Can't just get one picture. We're fans. He's like, yeah, you guys are comics? And he's staring at me. I thought he was going to like punch me. He goes, yeah, we'll take a picture. Why not? And then we just started talking, telling him we like his albums. He put out a couple of albums called The Day the Laughter Died, where he basically bombs.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the most punk rock moves I've ever seen a comedian make.
It's unbelievable. And me and Norton bonded over that. We listened to that on all those road trips constantly in the car. So we knew the whole album by heart. And we started telling him some of the jokes. He goes, I don't even remember saying that. He goes, why don't you guys go on stage tonight and do those jokes for me and my friends in the back? We go, yeah, all right. And he went over to the manager. He goes, put these two guys on, Jim and Jim. They're a team. And we got two microphones and we just did Dice's jokes. And the crowd had no idea what we were talking about either. They weren't his poems. They were just these, dumb, awful, no punchlines. And him and his friends are in the back howling at us. And the rest of the crowd's just staring at us. And then afterwards, he just took a liking to it. He's like, oh man, he goes, where are you guys staying? We told him the hotel. He goes, I might come by tomorrow if you guys want to go shopping with me. I'm like, yeah. And then in the morning, he came and picked us up. We went shopping with him for the whole day.
What was he shopping for? What was
like furniture and clothes. He loves doing that stuff. So we're like, I can't believe we're hanging with Dice. And then he goes, give me your numbers. And then Jim started opening for him, on the road. And then I started opening for him. We both started doing it and stuff. And it was great. I mean, I'm friends with him to this day.
So I got a question. Yeah, you and Jim doing the youngster thing, riding around. I'm sure you had some wild times touring around. What were the expectations when you did go on tour with Dice? Was the tour like wackiness? Did it meet your expectations? Like I would imagine you were thinking, what's going to be like touring with a rock guy? There's going to be strippers. There's going to be blow. There's going to be all kinds of shit going on. And I would imagine maybe it's not that way.
No, there was none of that. Dice is a straight-laced guy. He doesn't do drugs or, smoke cigarettes. No, after the show, we'd be back like at the suite eating, potato chips and snacks and getting food. Like that was the big, like we were in Vegas staying in the suite where Sammy Davis Jr., I forget the casino was called. Frank Sinatra, they all stay in that suite and we're up there eating snacks after the show. I'm like, no girls, no nothing. He was married at the time. No, but it was just great. Like we were all in about the show and his crowds were tough. So like, we weren't there to mess around, playing in front of 3,000 people and we're still not that established in our careers. We're like, oh man, this is unbelievable. And they were animals, those crowds. They just wanted to see Dice. So you really had to get them under your control for the time you were up there.
It probably prepared you for because I know you've opened for a lot of rock bands. So that was probably good preparation for having to go up in front of a bunch of angry rock and roll fans trying to do comedy. Definitely.
Just to get them in, to get them to focus on you, to calm down, to focus on the stage and all that stuff. Absolutely. All that stuff. And those early gigs, in those sports bars and everything else were good, learning experiences for us to do that too, to get the attention of the crowd. Because you lose them, then everyone's talking and you're just up there just talking and nobody's paying attention. You got to command the room somehow.
Those are the years, even as being in a band, that you learn that stuff. You got to learn to, when your cable snaps or the string breaks or shit just goes haywire, that's where you learn all those lessons and kind of how to maneuver around anything that they might throw at you. I think that's part of the 3 years you were talking about before you could go to New York. You kind of got to learn that shit before you step out or they're going to eat you alive.
Or making adjustments. You guys know as you're playing, if you could see if the crowd's not into it, you're like, you know what, we got to figure something. Let's go to this song. You know what I mean? Let's get the crowd back or whatever. Maybe switch the song order or whatever. You're always thinking up there. You're like, we're really not connecting with the crowd tonight. You could feel it as art, and I could feel it too as a comic too. So I don't know. I always try to make adjustments where I can.
I wonder if I thought about this today. Speaking of adjustments, I'm not even talking about self-censorship, but are there subjects as a comedian that after a while that people just aren't laughing at him anymore? Like maybe, I can't even think of an example, but maybe a subject matter was killing in the 90s and you're not afraid to say it for offending anybody. People are just like, it's just not funny anymore. Not even just certain bits, like certain subject matters.
There's two that I know of. Farts. People don't laugh at them anymore. They used to always.
I just chuckled, but hey.
Every comic would have fart jokes. We'd argue, are you going to do your fart jokes before me? Because I have fart jokes too. Like, well, so I got them too. I got, and fat jokes. Fat jokes used to always work. They don't work anymore.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't thought about that. I haven't heard a fat joke.
They don't work anymore. The fat jokes used to always work. And unless you're fat guy yourself, you can make fun of yourself. But if you're not fat, it just doesn't work. It used to. So I don't, it's like, all right, whatever. I just you move on from it. I don't talk about it anymore. But those are the two that I noticed. They just do not work anymore under any circumstances.
And there's no skinny jokes.
Yeah, have there ever been skinny jokes like fat jokes?
Yeah, I mean, people used to do Karen Carpenter jokes.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. So
You're
you get
right. Then we get into eating disorders.
Yeah, eating disorder, that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are the two that I noticed don't work anymore.
So I have a question. Because you're one of my favorite comedians, what if I were to cut my hair like yours and learn one of your whole specials and go out and sell tickets and do your set? What are your thoughts on that? Just like I learned Joan Jett's songs and go out and emulate her and do her songs.
You're in a Joan Jett tribute band?
Or yeah, what if we cover her songs in our band,
right.
But I would totally do a Joan Jett tribute band one day. So that's kind of my thing. What are your thoughts on that if I were to cover your set?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because the bands do it. I go see tribute bands. I see regular bands, but I have no problem with a tribute band. It's because sometimes they'll play deep tracks that the regular band won't play.
Right.
Which I like. Yeah, it would be weird. I wouldn't stop it, but it'd definitely be like, it's kind of strange because it doesn't really happen. Once people hear your comedy or your jokes, your comedy special, they don't want to hear it anymore. They want to hear new stuff.
Yeah.
There's the kicker. That's why there's no tribute comedians.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, because they're like, I already heard. Like there was even Dice was even offered to do like his first album from beginning to end. Like 5 years ago, he had an offer to go tour, and he's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, it's like going backwards. I don't even believe in that material anymore. But, that probably would have been big, but no other comic even thinks about doing that.
Yeah, there's very few that would be able to. I could see where that would work for. I mean, he would hate it, but I could see where he would pack places if he just went back to do his first record. But not too many people.
I don't know. It's just weird with comedy because then people are like, yeah, I know this bit. Oh, yeah, I know this. I've seen him do like the old nursery rhyme poems at the end of his set, like on an encore if he does. And people still like that, but just a regular material, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, it's weird. He was, for me though, he seemed to be, maybe it was because he was so fucking big, but when the record came out, everybody knew the rhymes, but he was still doing that show and selling it. I mean, he kind of, or it seemed to me like made a special and toured the special as if he made a record, which a lot of comedians can't do. But maybe it's just because it's the one-liners and people, it's almost a crowd participation thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing arenas, he was pretty much the first comic to do it. It's a whole other level. Everybody knows your material. So, yeah, it's a weird thing. But I don't know how I'd feel about that. But I'd be curious to watch it.
I'd pay to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't do it. I was just curious. I find it interesting.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. You wrote all those words. Joan wrote all those words. Just because I'm singing them, it's okay. It's just interesting.
I know Metallica, when they were doing I forget a stadium tour, I think it was, or even arena, they had this Metallica tribute band play in the parking lot before the show. And they made sure hey, this is our set list, so don't do any of the songs that we're going to do inside. So they did all other stuff, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, that's a genius idea.
Yeah, in Nashville, there's tons of tribute bands here, and they're all great. They're all
yeah. Live music. I don't know if it's like that in New York City, or around, but it used to be in the '90s or '80s and '90s. You didn't dare play cover music in your band, or you were a chump. It's like they're a fucking cover band. And now, I mean, you change it from cover to tribute. Quibble over terms, but now the tribute bands are the ones that people are paying lots of money to go see.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I like that band out of Nashville, the Rock and Roll Residency.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, buddies of ours.
Yeah, I've opened for him before. Me and Don did a gig with him at one of the bars down there about a year and a half ago. And we'll see them on the Monster Rock Cruise. They're amazing, those guys.
Yeah, they play the deep cuts and stuff.
Yeah, and they play in Ace Frehley's band. Some of the guys, I guess. Yeah, they're great.
Oh yeah, Phil is in JB's. JB has his own band. It's not as good as our band. JB's 52, right? Did
Something
you
like
tell
that.
him
No.
yet? He tells every single comedian how old he is, every single podcast.
Well,
we
that's because
do.
I don't want him to think I'm a fucking poser when I'm talking about Van Halen in 1984 or something. They're like, who the fuck he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Anyway, shut up,
You
JB.
could have done the research though. Like you could be, be someone that just studied it and knows all about it.
Yeah, do you think just because I'm 36 that I'm dumb about Van Halen? And I am dumb about Van Halen, but would you just automatically assume that if you didn't know?
True. Yeah. I mean, so, you have to kind of go through it to live it.
See,
Like it's usually like the first album you bought by the band is usually your favorite album. Like when you were a kid,
Yeah.
like that's the one that connects you with the band. Like that's always going to be your favorite one pretty much.
The first album I bought with my own money was NSYNC.
not metal.
No, but they were, I was thinking In Excess. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Yeah, I know. That would have been better. I'm like, oh, they weren't that bad In Excess.
Honestly, I thought we were going to have a scoop because I thought you were about to go, NSYNC, that wasn't that bad. I was like, dude, don't do it for her, Jim. Just don't do
No,
it.
I really thought you meant, I thought it was In Excess.
Yeah.
We went to do a podcast when we were in LA. It was Mike Watt from
The Minutemen,
Minutemen.
and all those old punk band.
And that was the first thing he asked me. He's like, what's the first CD you bought? And I was like, oh, God, I have to tell him I bought an NSYNC CD. It's my first CD. Of course, but I grew up on my grandpa's music, which I want to ask you about. My grandpa, when is the first time you remember hearing about Willie Nelson?
Probably, I don't know, maybe in my 20s or 30s. I wasn't a big country guy. Obviously, I was all about metal and hard rock and stuff. But, Willie was like, to me, it was like, oh, man, but this is different. This isn't regular country music. I'm like, I don't know. Because country in New Jersey, country music wasn't big at all.
Right.
Like in the last 15 years, they never even had a country radio station in New York or New Jersey ever until about probably 10, 15 years ago.
Huh.
So it wasn't big. It wasn't on anybody's radar here at all. It's just weird. But
I didn't realize that.
I don't know why, because it was more. I don't know what it was.
Huh.
It was strange, but it wasn't. But then all of a sudden they started playing. All of a sudden all the country acts would play at this outdoor paisillion here in Jersey, the PNC Arts Center, and they would sell out. They were all coming. Like, who's buying all those tickets? Like you'd see the country list, like. Bad Paisley. I'm like, who's going to buy tickets? And I'm like, oh, it's sold out. They put a second show on. I'm like, is that big around New Jersey? But obviously it was. But it took a while for those bands to get up here. So I wasn't familiar with Willie for a while. But then when I heard some of his stuff, I'm like, wow, this is cool. And I heard the history about him. Like I said, he reminded me of like the Lemmy of country.
Yeah.
Totally.
He was the outlaw of country. And I like that. The Johnny Cash. I like the outlaws like that. Lemmy just did it themselves, didn't care. And then when I'd hear him on Howard Stern, he was great. Like I heard his personality. I remember him on there one time saying, I think Howard Stern said something like, you married, Willie? He goes, nah. He goes, I'm not going to get married again. I'm just going to buy some girl a house that I like. Or something like that. He told that joke and I was like, this guy's great. Yeah, I'm just going to buy some girl a house that I like. I might as well just do it that way. It's just easier.
I always
and it's Willie openly talking about smoking weed in like the 90s when nobody did. Like that was taboo. Like you couldn't smoke weed. And anyone you knew that smoked, like, wow, he smokes weed, and just that he was older. And he's like, oh yeah, smoke all day constantly. And it was great.
I've always been curious as a metalhead growing up in Jersey as a youngster. Are you allowed or not allowed to like Springsteen? I would imagine it's like, fuck Bruce Springsteen.
I hated him. I didn't like him. You either on the side of Bruce Springsteen or you weren't. I thought he was a poser. Born in the USA came out. It was like, I don't know. I was never a fan. If you liked them, there was one of my friends that was a big metalhead. He met this girl and he started dating her, and she made him go to see Springsteen. I didn't talk to him for 6 months. I was that mad at him.
That's the allegiances were strong back in those days, man. You were in a concert tee, and you're gonna get roughed up. Yeah,
we like if we saw Bruce Springsteen bumper stickers on cars like at the mall, we'd rip them off in the parking lot. We'd take them off.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're furious.
Hysterical. Well, we got to get into that metal show. Like, I know you and Don were probably buddies before that. How did you meet Eddie, and how did that whole idea come up?
So Don, me and Don start doing comedy shows. Don starts doing comedy, and we're driving home, from shows on Friday night, late on Friday night. Eddie had a heavy metal show on the classic rock station in New York, Q104. It was all classic rock during the day, but Friday from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eddie had his own show, and he brought his own music in. He could play whatever he wanted for 3 hours. It was crazy because you only heard, The Doors, Light My Fire, and, Tom Petty, Free Fallin' all day. And all of a sudden you're hearing this obscure metal. I mean, Don would listen to his show. We're like, man, this guy likes the same music as us. How do we not know him? He's from New Jersey. And then we wound up meeting him at a concert a couple months later. And we told him, hey, we're fans. I go, we're comics. We listen to your show. He goes, oh, you guys should come up on the show, one Friday night and sit in, and we'll just talk metal and all that stuff. We'll take phone calls. I'm like, yeah. And that's how we became friends with him. He was already working at VH1, doing some other show. And he's like, hey, I'm going to pitch a show, like a Tonight Show for AC/DC fans with us three, because I already got an in at VH1. And they go, okay, we'll give you money for, a pilot episode. And we shot a pilot episode with Lita Ford, who Lita was off the radar for like 12 years. She wasn't doing anything. She was living on an island, raising her family. She basically came out of retirement, did the show, and they liked it and they picked it up. Then we wound up doing, we're on for 8 years and 140 episodes.
That had to be amazing for you, being a metal guy, meeting up.
It was crazy. Because I didn't have to do any research. All the guests coming up, I'm like, oh my God, I've been waiting 20 years to ask Steve Harris this question from Iron Maiden or Angus or Brian Johnson or something like that. So it was great.
Did anybody surprise you at all? Is there a story you remember that surprised you or shocked you about meeting these heroes of yours?
They were not really. They were all pretty cool. I mean, I like when Marilyn Manson came on because he was always drunk. He's drinking absinthe. He was just telling like really dirty, edgy, racy jokes. And the crowd didn't know how to take him. He's got, this weird sense of humor. So I always like that. I like it. I like when it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
But then we had Lemmy on a bunch of times. We had the late, great Ronnie James Dio on before he passed away. So we had some amazing guests all the time. But they were all pretty cool. Look, they were older. So, if we caught them in their 20s, they would have been dicks because they had egos and they were out of control, drinking, doing drugs, and they were rock stars. But now that they're older and they realize like it's a business, so they didn't come in there with an attitude. Nobody demanded anything and none of that stuff. They just come in, did the show. They knew that was a great show to promote, for that niche audience that we had.
And you guys were the only game in town for that niche audience that you're talking about. There wasn't really anything else on TV that you could find to see that era of musicians. Like you said, a lot of times I'd go, oh fuck, I didn't even know this guy was still around doing stuff,
Yeah, plus Eddie had a relationship, because he was on the radio for a long time, and plus doing a VH1 show before us, so they all knew him. So they didn't just come in blindly, So no, it worked out perfect. It was the best TV job he could ever have, the business. I knew eventually it was going to go away. All TV shows eventually do, but I was just like riding it every year. I was like, man, we're doing another year. This is amazing. Just ride it out. I almost taught it like. I had it like I was a football coach. It's a dream job, but I know one day I'm going to get fired.
Right.
Yeah.
But I might as well enjoy the ride because they always get fired. You love him in the beginning. He's doing great. That brings you to playoffs, and eventually they can you. So.
But the perks that came from those relationships, I would imagine, just in tickets to shows and even opening gigs. I mean, you opened for the big three, right, on that tour?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just going to shows. Yeah, I did stand up on those shows, which, wasn't ideal, but I wanted to challenge myself. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And we're playing in arenas. I didn't have to do that much time, but yeah, it was tough. I wouldn't recommend it to another comic, but, I wound up doing it. But yeah, it was great. I mean, just being friends with those guys, and just even to this day when they come around town or I see them on the Monster Rock cruise, just to be, still in touch with those guys is great.
Is your kid into metal?
Yeah.
So
he has no choice.
Have you been taking him to shows since a young age?
He's been to 17 concerts.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was
He's seen
his first?
Slipknot twice.
What was
You know,
his
he's-
first one?
His first one was Zach Wilde. He saw Zach doing like an acoustic thing. That was his first show. But he's seen Black Sabbath. He's seen Ozzy solo. He's seen Slipknot's like his favorite band.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense. Like the new Kiss for young kids, I would imagine. They get
Yeah, like he was a big Papa Roach fan for a while, so we saw them a couple times. He's seen AC/DC. He saw AC/DC with Axl too. He's seen him with Brian and Axl.
Wow.
Axl only did 10 shows with them.
What
Yeah,
is
he
it-
loves going to concerts, especially if he knows the bands. We saw Foreigner, Whitesnake, and somebody else or whatever. So, yeah, he's a big fan. He loves going to concerts.
What did you think when you heard that Axl was going to be filling in? I had my doubts at first until I saw the first video footage, and I was like, damn, he's kind of killing it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. I knew Axl was a big AC/DC fan. I've seen him do Riff Raff, that song,
Right?
when he was playing with Guns N' Roses. But, I didn't know how it was going to. I saw two of those 10 shows, and he was amazing. He did a great job. He did the Bon Scott stuff's great.
Yeah, the Brian shit's damn near impossible to sing, but the stuff that I heard, I was a little worried for him. But then when the video was in, I was like, really hard to hate on that.
Yeah, and it was like, he let Angus do his thing. He kind of hung out by the speaker, almost like Brian does, so he knew it wasn't his band, so it was really cool.
Yeah, it came off way better. You could tell he was being respectful about that. Another
Yeah,
thing,
he totally was.
yeah, and another thing that after you got into that metal show, is that when you started putting records out on like Metal Blade? I noticed, like, it's funny because you had records out on Metal Blade. I know, like, it's almost like the alt comics, like Patton Oswalt had some stuff out on Sub Pop. The sort of followed the musical genre and the comedy genres. They were there for a while. They were putting out comedians that I think fit their brand, I guess.
Yeah, well, me and Don met Brian Slago, who's the head of Metal Blade Records. And we became friends, and he was a really good dude. He's like, dude, I would love to put your next, album out on my label. I'm like, oh my God, I've been a Metal Blade fan for years. I bought their, Metal Massacre, record. That was Brian's first thing he ever put out. He's a good dude. And I'm like, of course, I would love that, to be on a real label instead of just putting it out yourself. So I did. I probably got 3 or 4 albums out on Metal Blade.
Was it the second one that we were talking about? The one where you just basically read all your awful jokes from early in your stand-up. It's along the same lines as the Dice thing of, except that you actually let people in that you were, on what the deal was.
Yeah, when I was moving, I found my old comedy notebooks when I first started doing comedy, and I started reading the jokes. I'm like, oh my God, are these terrible? Oh my, this is embarrassing. I can't believe I wrote this, and I was going to throw them out and burn them. I go, let me read them on my podcast. and people went crazy, like, oh my God, this is so funny. I'm like, really? Like, please give us more. And I'm like, I did a few more. And then I was like, maybe I should put this out on an album. I just went in the recording studio, and Brian's like, I'll put that out. I'm like, you sure you want to put this out on your label? He's like, yeah. So I just went in the recording studio. I read them out of my notebook with no audience.
I love it.
Because I'm like, these jokes don't deserve laughs, so I'm not going to do it in front of a crowd. And if anyone actually laughs, I'll get mad.
Well, it's kind of like,
it.
it's almost like a Norm Macdonald routine. It becomes so unfunny that by the end, it's hilarious, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I love puns, though. I can't help it. I love them so much, even though they're so stupid. The ridiculous and stupid is just so good.
And on that particular record, you just ran off I don't know how many minutes worth in a row of puns. My God, I was dying.
I know. 'Cause I think guys, when I first started, like comics are around for a while, were doing puns. So I'm like, all right, I got to write puns. That's what I got to do. So I just kept writing puns and just all constantly.
That's hilarious.
I love it.
Well, we were talking about actually this before this came on, this whole cancel culture thing. It's got me thinking, even today. Are there more people walking out of shows now or less? Like, it seems to me that that whole cancel culture thing, everybody talks to comedians are like, oh, you can't say this anymore. It must be rough out there. But it seems to me like in comedy clubs, I don't know how real any of that shit is. Like, I don't know who's canceling, what you're getting canceled from. It seems like a whole weird world just amongst Twitter. And that in real life, you're not really, nobody's, I could be wrong. But
Are you censoring yourself for cancel culture because of it?
No.
No.
It just
I never
isn't
did.
real.
I never did. You know, it's not happening in comedy clubs. That's all the media just driving that stuff, making people crazy. You know, you go to, and I've been asking club owners for the last like 4 years when I go to town. I go, are more people walking out now? You know, over the last few years, they're like, no, not at all. It's actually less because people actually research the comics, and people that aren't into comedy aren't going to come to the club anymore. So you're getting people that just want to go out and have a few laughs and forget all that bullshit that they see on the TV and stuff like that, and then they don't get offended at all. So I feel like the crowds have even gotten better. The live stand-up crowds have gotten better.
It would seem so, because now, like you said, you literally, if you get offended in a comedy club, it's really on you because you have the internet. And if you don't know what you're walking into now in 1985, if you didn't go out and buy comedy records or have cable, you might not know. You might be just going to see a show. So I would imagine more people would get pissed off back then. But now, I don't know. It just seems like a lot is made about that. And how about this? For us, it used to be you would want the younger crowd and the kids in there and whatever. But for us, it seems like the older the crowd is, almost the better, 35 and above,
They have
40
more
and
money.
above. They got more money, but they also remember what live shit was like. They don't get their feelings hurt. They remember how you used to live. It's just more fun. It seems like the old days more. The older the crowd, the better.
They've lived a little. I always liked an older crowd too. I didn't like a younger crowd because they're too sensitive.
Yeah.
You make a joke about whatever and like, oh my God, that's terrible. Like they'd have to process it, to find out if they could laugh. I like the older crowd that's been around and lived life. You know what I mean? And so I've always liked that 35 to 55-year-old crowd. That's always been my audience. I hated when they're a young crowd tonight. I'm like, they're gonna suck probably then. But that's always been the case.
Right.
How do you deal with hecklers, or when you've had to deal with them?
Yeah, I mean, you deal with them constantly because, you're drinking, you're in a club, and drinks are flowing. It's a 2-drink minimum, so everyone has to drink. And, I just, I try to diffuse the situation. I don't go right at them. I try to give them a chance or two. And then if they just keep talking, then it's, I slowly break it down. And sometimes it gets ugly. It never gets to a fight or anything like that, but they usually get mad, and sometimes they got to leave. They got to get kicked out of the club. And it's all because of the alcohol. It's never somebody that's sober.
Right.
Never.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the comedian and how they deal with that. Kind of probably like when the internet's coming after certain comedians trying to quote unquote cancel you. Some people ignore it. Some people try to apologize, and some people go Joey Diaz with it and like, oh, you think that's offensive? Here's some more. Let me give you some more. And number 3 is my favorite response, of course. And it really just shuts them up. The worst thing you could do, I think, is apologize. That just drags shit out, especially if you didn't do anything you don't feel you should apologize for.
And who's really looking for the apology? Like, nobody. If somebody says something, if it's not directly at somebody, you know what I mean? Like, who's really looking for apology? Nobody really is. And that shit goes by so quick, like, the news cycle. It's like in a day, nobody's even going to care about this. I don't even going to think about it. Who cares? Who's even talking about the shooting that was in Colorado? That was 8 days ago. It's not in nobody's radar. And that was a huge story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just let it die down. Don't say a word. And then the people are on a million other things.
Yeah, it's crazy. I find it slightly ironic that, when we were young, there would be the hardcore Christians outside of the Ozzy show with the signs protesting. And, our age people would just look at them and kind of laugh. They had the whole piss Christ thing where the guy dumped the crucifix in a bottle of piss. But we would defend it and go, hey, it's art. You got to let everybody say what they want. But I find that people my age now are the ones that have flipped and they were just taking another side, but they're just as dogmatic about you can't do this, you can't do that. They sound like the fucking people that were holding up the Ozzy is the devil signs. It's just on a completely opposite side. You'd think they would know better. It's pretty ironic. It's interesting.
Oh, it is true. They pretty much are. Look, anyone that's, or want people to get in trouble for what they say, especially like actors, comedians, whatever. They're just trying to kiss ass in Hollywood. They still they think they're in the game. They want to stay in the game. So anything that they, whatever those, people want, if they get offended by something you say, they all just gang up on you. Okay, everybody else is ganging up on them, then I'll do it too, because maybe I'll get a role. Maybe a director will see my Twitter feed and see that I went after that person too and said he should lose his job. It's a desperate attempt to stay relevant is what it is. And to stay in Hollywood. It's like, what is Hollywood anymore anyway? It's just desperate people out there trying to make it. And it's like, you can't have any edge anymore. In any of the dialogue in any of the movies, you're not going to see any edge. It's just more, they just up their violence more. There's no more race dialogue, like funny race dialogue about different races. You can't do that anymore in a movie. So they just make it more violent, more guns, more violence and stuff like that. It's just like, it's sad. So like, why would you want to be a part of that? As a comic, you could build your own audience and perform in front of your own crowd. That's what I always wanted to do. So I'm like, that was always my dream. So what do I don't need to kiss anybody's ass.
So were you like that from the start, as far as like, how much from the start and now was it sort of do it yourself? I'm just taking care of shit. And how much did you have management and a team and all that kind of stuff? Like, it seems like you kept it pretty much in house from the get go. It's because you didn't care to do anything other than stand up comedy. And if something else presented itself, great. But what you really wanted to do is, your art.
Yeah. I mean, because I always looked at it like it was a band. I always saw bands just touring, playing clubs, selling merchandise, getting their name out there, mailing lists, whatever like that, and just building a following like that. So that's the way I always looked at how I wanted my comedy career to go. People coming back to see you, you know what I mean? They'll buy some of your merchandise. You meet them after the show. Hey, that's great. I'm going to come back to see you when you come back in town, and build it like that. That's the way I always like to do it. And that's the way I still do it.
Yeah. Grassroots style.
Yeah, it serves you.
Yeah, I'd rather play in front of my crowd than people that don't, you know what I mean? That's what you always strive for, to build your audience.
Yep.
That's what you want to do. People that are into it, and just play to them. Like, why am I going to try to compromise and you're never going to win everybody over. Even like Jerry Seinfeld, the most middle of the road comic, is still not going to win everybody over with his comedy. It's not going to happen. He might get 60%. The other 40, that's lame. I don't like it. So why even try? I always just play to my audience.
Not to sound too lame, but if the more you stay true to yourself, the more people are going to at least stand out,
Look, when I was making like $500 a week doing stand up, to me, I made it. I'm like, I'm paying my bills and I'm doing a job that I love. So to me, at like 3-4 years in, I'm like, I already made it. This is all, the rest is just bonus.
And just by doing that, you got the TV show you got on late night. Didn't you win an Emmy? Weren't you on the NFL, the HBO NFL show?
Inside the NFL, yeah. Me and Dom were on there doing like comedy bits, messing with the football players. We won an Emmy for the whole show and best like comedy sketch for sports.
That had to be a second dream gig aside from the metal show, because I know you're a sports fan too. So that had to be fucking
big NFL fan. And then Dan Marino was my favorite player, and he was working on the show. Yeah, so it was amazing. I was only on for 1 year. That was too edgy for them. They had enough of me after a year. Like, okay, this is too much. But it was great. It was a fun ride, man, for that 1 year.
On a show with Dan Marino, and wasn't Lemmy like musical director on Norton's show on HBO too?
Yeah, Lemmy, on Down and Dirty, because Norton was a big Motorhead fan, so they got Lemmy to come out and do it, which is great. I did a spot on that show. Yeah, I remember that night because we went to New York City. Lemmy was the music director on that comedy show. It was filmed in New Jersey. And they had to go back in New York City for something, to film something. Lemmy and Jim Norton, like the open of the show. So I go, Norton's like, if you want to come in the limo with us, I'm like, yeah. So I go in a limo. This is before that metal show. And afterwards, Jim got dropped off or whatever. And it was just me and Lemmy in the limo. And I tell the limo guy, just, give me a ride up to the Port Authority. I'm going to go home. And Lemmy's like, you going home? I'm like, I guess. He's like, you don't want to go to the strip club with me? I'm like, yeah, I'll go. He's like, yeah, let's go. Unless you want to go home. I go, no, let's go. Next thing I know, I'm hanging out in a strip club with Lemmy. It was beautiful.
Not a whole lot
But
of
I didn't want to bother him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, now it's weird. It's just me and him. He's like, you don't want to come to the strip club with me? I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Well, those are the best kind of things when you get the invitation without having to gurm them and you're like, oh shit, I guess I'm in. Here we go. Let's do this.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. So, memories like that is something I could tell the grandkids. I don't have a college diploma to show them. But I could tell them I went to a strip club with Lemmy.
Yeah, but it is a cool thing because I've had people that I've admired in the past, and it doesn't matter how old you get and how long you've been doing it. If somebody you really look up to comes up and either tells you you're good or likes you, it makes you feel good,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like I heard a comedian say, I'm not sure who it is, but it's like meeting someone famous and them liking you is like having a black guy like you. It just feels really cool and good. And I think they nailed it. I wish I could give proper credit, but it was, yeah.
Funny.
Somebody will know who said it.
Yeah, somebody else, angry comic.
Well, Jim, thank you very much for doing this with us again for the second time. I'm sorry that I didn't record it last time.
I think I see the recording still going,
It's
so
still
I
going.
think we're good.
And I don't think you'll be getting an email from me tomorrow telling you that we have to do it again.
Well, I can guarantee you won't be getting an email either way tomorrow saying we have to do it again. If you fucked it up this time, we're done.
I'll just email you next year if that happens.
But anyway, thanks, man, for doing this. And again,
Of course, absolutely. Hopefully I'll be down in Nashville, go hang.
yeah,
let's
definitely
hang
look
out.
us up when you come. And, I've lived here forever, so I can tell you where to go and where not to go.
I can't believe how cool you guys are. Comedians are really cool. You're cool, famous people.
I don't know. Most of them are. There's some, guys, they're all, in every business going to be dicks. But yeah, we're pretty much down to earth, and we're just like, yeah, we're just doing our thing. I saw you guys had Dean Del Rey on. Dean's a great guy. He's a friend of mine.
What would you say the big music comedian guys are? Dean clearly is a musicologist. You come up all the time. I think Mark Maron definitely dives.
Maron, Joey Diaz.
Oh, Diaz is into music deep.
Joey's a big guy. Don Jameson.
Of course.
Brian Posehn, Jim Brewer.
Oh, Jim. Yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah, I guess there's a whole lot.
Jim Norton is too. Bill Burr's a big music fan too.
Yeah, I actually sent him an email asking if he would drum on our last single, but he didn't respond.
Can you believe he didn't respond to that? I got such an
He
opportunity.
probably doesn't think he's that good enough of a drummer. I mean, he's played before. He's played in some cover bands and stuff, but he's like, I'm not that good to play on a record. He's very humble, Bill. That's what he's probably thinking.
Well, I just hate that he passed up the opportunity of a lifetime. I think we could have helped boost his career a little bit if he'd have just done that. But
I know.
Maybe next time. Keep practicing, Bill. We'll get you in there.
Well, thanks, Jim. We'll talk to you really soon, okay?
Absolutely,
Are you
definitely.
asking more questions?
No, I was just making sure we took care of.
Oh, I already sent you your package. I was there. I sent it a couple days ago, so
Okay.
you should have it pretty soon.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, and I'll let you guys know when I'm in Nashville, hopefully within 6 months, over the summer at some point.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
great, man. Yeah,
Couple shows down.
Drinks on me. Do you drink?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Drinks on me for doing the show with us. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right, yeah, because last time I said we did that, I forget what club it was. We opened for the Rock and Roll Residency, me and Donna. It was great.
Mercy Lounge, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Mercy Lounge. Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it was awesome.
I remember seeing that. So, maybe we'll hook up a jam too next time you're in.
Yeah.
Give us some notice. We'll
We'll make the Rock and Roll Residency play for you personally.
All right, that's perfect.
do that. All right, man. Thanks again for doing this. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Jim Florentine is my favorite comedian.
He was great, especially doing it again, round 2.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
He makes me nervous. I'm a little scared of him, I think.
I think it's the Northeastern guys. Yeah, the gruff, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought he'd be really mad at me for not recording, but he was really cool. He's a good guy.
Yeah, really good guy. So anyway, join us next Wednesday. We got another great episode coming up.
Rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yep, and enjoy your groceries.
Don't be an asshole.
I know your mama's name.
Free Britney.